Hey friends! Welcome back to my channel. My name is Carolyn and I talk about books. Today's video, I haven't actually planned it out very well. It's gonna be kind of flying by the seat of my pants here. But I know a lot of people in the booktube community like to do haul videos. And for whatever reason, they just aren't my personal favorite videos to watch. I think part of it is a lot of the books they show are like new releases, and I am very, very broke. And so I just really don't spend a lot of money on new releases. I shop primarily at thrift stores, used bookstores, and like Goodwill, things like that. And so a lot of the books they talk about are books that I probably won't find till much, much later. But what I did want to talk about are some of my favorite finds that I have found at these secondhand shops. So I had pulled aside a bunch of books from like my latest Goodwill and thrift store and used bookstore trips, but I don't know. I just don't feel like they're really something that I feel like I need to show. I feel like what I do want to talk about is the stack I pulled aside of some of my favorite surprise finds at these bookstores, and maybe you'll find some recommendations from those. So one of the first favorite books that I have found at a thrift store is going to be Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. I just really loved this book. I saw the movie when my husband and I had just started dating. We went and saw the movie and thought it was a lot of fun, and I enjoyed the book a lot better. I totally thought like, this is exactly what happened. Like, Abraham Lincoln was a vampire hunter. Not really, but I really just genuinely thought that it seemed well researched, and I just really enjoyed this. There was a lot of heart to it, but it seemed like it was nonfiction. And I just really, oh my gosh, I didn't even notice on the back he's like holding a severed head. Hope that's in focus and you can see it, but totally didn't even realize as I was reading it. I read a different copy. I actually found the movie tie-in cover first at a thrift store. Loved the book so much that I thought if I ever find at another thrift store this copy, I will get this one and then I will give away the other one, which is what I ended up doing. But I really, really enjoyed this, and because I enjoyed this, I wanted to read some more of Seth Grahame-Smith's other works, and one that I was really excited to read is called Unholy Night, and it's like a interesting sort of retelling about the three wise men at the birth of Christ. And I haven't read it yet, but I am super stoked that I found this at another Goodwill. And I had never seen this cover of it. The other cover that I think is on Goodreads is, as you can tell, I'm kind of a cover snob. And I didn't love that cover, but I thought it doesn't matter. I think that's the only one that exists. And then I found this one at a Goodwill, and I'm very excited about it. So I'm saving this one for the Christmas season, so it's on my TBR shelf. But this was another really exciting find. Despite the fact that I haven't read it, I can't recommend it to you yet, but it is something that I'm interested in reading. Another one of my favorite used bookstore finds was My Lady Jane, and I've talked about this book before, how it is sort of a fantastical retelling about the life of Lady Jane Grey, and I just think this is such a fun book. It's one of those that like actually made me laugh and chuckle out loud, and very rarely do I do that. I kind of just do it in my head, but this one was just so much fun, and this is one that I found at a used bookstore, and I'm really glad that I started this series because I've been enjoying the other books in the series, My Plain Jane and My Calamity Jane by the same authors, and I'm just really glad that this kind of started my love for that series. The next one of my favorite Goodwill / thrift store finds has been The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. This was one that I've talked about in another video, but people told me this is really heavy, this is really dark, about mental illness, and it definitely is, but I really enjoyed it, and I'm really glad that I picked it up. It's definitely one of my favorites that I've read this year. I believe it got 5 stars from me, which I've been kind of stingy about my 5 stars this year, but I just felt like I was in the right place mentally to go ahead and read this book, and I'm really glad that I found this because this was like, what, like 79 cents for a 5-star read? Sounds good to me. Another one of my favorite thrift store finds is The Martian by Andy Weir. I have gone through 3 different copies of this book, and I spent like almost no money on all of them. So the first copy I had was another movie tie-in cover with Matt Damon's giant face on the front of it, and I read that copy first, and it was clear that it was just gonna be another 5-star, which is very surprising for me. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, don't don't love science fiction, but every now and then I'll find a really, really good, solid sci-fi that really just speaks to me, and this was one of them. So I thought if I ever find one elsewhere, and I had a gift card and went out and got this. I didn't realize that it was the classroom edition, so they've cleaned up some of the language, which kind of made me laugh. I didn't realize till I got home and flipped through it. But hey, you know, at least my children can read this version and we can read the version with all the F-bombs in it. And then I have another copy of it in hardcover that I found elsewhere because it's one of my favorites. I don't mind having two different copies of this book. The unedited version and then the classroom edition. I've never even heard of classroom editions before, but I don't know, I guess like science classes read this maybe? English classes? It just makes me laugh because the first sentence is different. The first sentence is actually, I'm pretty much effed. And then now this one says, I'm pretty much screwed. So you get the general idea. So you don't need the F-bombs to be able to enjoy this book. The next book is one that I have actually already read. I had read it, I think I actually did spend the money on this particular book, but I found an extra copy at the thrift store and I went ahead and bought it because I plan on giving this away to a specific person for a Christmas gift. And that is A Monster Calls by Patrick Ness. This is one of my favorite books of all time. This book made me sob like very few books have actually made me do. It's just this brilliant, heart-wrenching, beautiful story about loss and losing somebody that you love. And I just think this illustrated edition is gorgeous. It's illustrated by Jim Kay, and he also did the illustrated Harry Potters that have been coming out. And I just love his work. And so when I found this version, it's also the same version that I have up on my shelf, but when I saw this for 79 cents, I knew I needed to get it because this is one of those that I'm always recommending to people who are going through loss. And so I wanted to have it on hand, and I have a very specific person in mind to give this to. So if you get this at Christmas, you'll know that I had this in mind for you all along.
Gianna.
I should keep that in there, just if she ever watches it. Alright, this one, if you follow me on Instagram, you will have already seen this thrift store find, because this is probably my favorite thrift store find that I've ever had. I haven't actually read this book yet, but when I found it, I like almost cried in the Goodwill, because I just thought, this is why I shop at thrift stores. This is why I treasure hunt. I have stories for all these different books on my bookshelves, rather than just like going to a full price store, knowing it's going to be on the shelf, picking it up. These actually have a story to them, and this is one that I was so excited to find. So this is The Glass Hotel by Emily St. John Mendel. So I love Station 11 by her, and so this came out in 2020, and I knew it was going to be a while before I got my hands on it because I don't usually go out and buy brand new books. And I found this one just in a pile at the thrift store, and it is a signed first edition, and so I got this for like $1.50. So I was very excited about this find. I have not read it yet. I am like 90th in line for the audiobook. I don't know that I'm actually gonna wait that long. I may just go ahead and dive right into it, but this was one that I was super excited to find. And the last books that I want to talk about are books that I am in the middle of reading, so I haven't actually finished them yet. But they're ones that I do want to mention while I'm talking about thrift store finds. One thing I try to do every time I go is I try and find a book that I have never heard of, an author I've never heard of, book I've never heard of, and usually that means it's a cover buy. I look at the cover and I go, this seems interesting. And so this time I went to a bookstore and I found this book again that I'd never heard of, Vampires in the Lemon Grove by Karen Russell. And I just thought this was a really fun cover with this bat. I love bats. I don't know why you needed to know that about me, but I think bats are really weird and cute. This is a collection of short stories, and the first one is a little strange, but I loved the writing in it. And at the bottom it says author of Swamplandia, and I thought that's a fun title. So when I went to the next thrift store, lo and behold, what did I find? Swamplandia, which is a novel, and it says it was a Pulitzer Prize finalist, so it must be pretty good. So I started it last night, and I just think the language is beautiful in this. So I haven't finished it. Hopefully I'll finish it this month and can have it in my wrap-up, and I can talk a little bit more about it. But I'm really enjoying this so far. It's about this family that has like one of those weird, like, I don't even know what you would call them, like kind of like these little amusement parks off of the highway about swamp animals and gators, and the mom wrestles with alligators, and it's just like a very interesting, quirky, beautifully written book. I'm only one chapter in, but I'm really enjoying it so far, and so I'm glad that I have 2 books by this author because I'm really enjoying her writing style. Again, I don't know how I'm going to like her work as a whole, but so far I'm really enjoying it, and I never would have discovered this if I didn't just pick up some random books at a thrift store. So I would suggest, I know a lot of people, especially in the booktube community, you see people's shelves, you see them brimming over with books, and it's a little intimidating, and I just want you to know that you can get some really, really, really great finds secondhand. That's basically where I spend all of my time and all of my money because it's cheap and it's fun. Like I said, it's like a treasure hunt. My beautiful collector's edition, the full color illustrated Narnia series that I have, I found all of those at various thrift stores, and so I can tell you where I got them, and it was just so exciting to finally find the last one in the collection, and it just feels like a big treasure hunt. And so I just would really recommend stumbling into a, you know, secondhand shop and going through their books. I just think it's a really relaxing way to spend some time. I know with this pandemic we can't really just go out and do that a lot, but if it's something that you feel safe doing and you can social distance with your mask in the store, I would recommend it. I think it really adds a lot to your shelves and a lot to your soul. I really believe that. So this is my weird version of a haul, just talking about some of my favorite things that I have found at thrift stores. And please let me know down below some of your favorite kind of magical finds that you have found over the years, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye, friends.